But the platform gave us that capability to discern what kinds of traffic we want to go inspect and decrypt, and then go send off to the tools. So the tools don't have to deal with decryption. Decryption is a pretty computationally intensive process. Typically, it takes 60-70% utilization goes down on the tools, and you have to repeat this in every tool, which means you're taking the hit in every tool that actually needs to look at plain text traffic. Rather than that, we said, okay, architecturally it's more sound to do it in one place, do it in the platform, and everybody else gets the benefit of it. The tools get the full utilization. You're doing it once. It just makes sense. Now, there were some policy considerations and some things that we had run through, and I'll turn it over to Jack to walk through some of those implementation challenges and issues that we ran through as well.
Yeah, so as a security person, you can imagine I was very excited when we were told to go do this. This is a tricky one. So there's going to be people in here in different sectors, as we're talking about when we say you need to really think about what your tolerance is, what your goals are. I have a lot of engineers that are around us. You know, we're doing R&D. Telling them we're about to start decrypting their traffic didn't necessarily go over great. But from the security standpoint, as more and more traffic moves to encryption, and as we see more and more malware being encrypted natively, this became a real problem. You know, one of the ways that we think about it internally is that our overall protection of our network winds up being effectively a function of how quickly we can detect and how quickly we can respond. And one of the ways I end up thinking about this is that if you have infinity in there, you've got a problem. And so, you know, we say internally in our SOC that infinity is the enemy of security. And so we had to do this. Like, there was no choice in this. However, the policy side of it becomes a little tricky, and I'll encourage you, if you start to move down the world of decrypting SSL, talk to your lawyers early, because they're going to have a lot to say about this, as will your compliance people. But I think the way you have to approach it, and the way we approached it, is to look at really where were we going. So one of the things that we wanted to do is we clearly wanted to watch things that are obviously concerning. You know, yes, do we block things like pornography sites at the edge? Yes. Do we block things like dark web traffic, Tor? Yes. But east-west movement, even internally, that's still encrypted, can tell you something about a story that's developing on your network, even if it has not yet left your network. So we started with kind of a very narrow range of categories that generally seemed unconcerning to people, and we circulated them around and got some feedback to see if people were going to be worried about these things, and they weren't. And then we moved out from there, and we started asking questions like, is it okay for us to decrypt iCloud, for example, knowing that some of our employees run their personal iCloud on their laptops? We decided no. We decided that wasn't going to be okay. However, we did decide to go with OneDrive. We run it internally. We thought there's some value there in case anyone's putting any malware or code out on the OneDrive. So we did go with that route. And eventually, after a while, we kind of iterated through and found up a list that we could do. And then the next immediate challenge happened is we said, okay, now we're going to roll this out in an offshore site we have. And then the lawyers raised their hand and said, different compliance scheme is different regulatory rules. And then we had to do the whole exercise again. What I will say, though, is once it was done and once we were intelligently doing the decryption, the tool use obviously went up. It saw more traffic. When it was just seeing SSL sessions, it couldn't do anything. So what's it do? It does some basic threat intel matching, pops it up against, you know, source and dest IP, and you hope for the best. Maybe it's doing a little bit around SSL cert inspection, but that's it. As soon as we opened up decryption, guess what? We started finding malware. We started finding problems. So every one of you is going to have to go back if you want to think about doing decryption and ask what is the tolerance you're going to take, what are the categories you're willing to decrypt. I suspect no one is going to decrypt everything. I think everyone's going to go through that list and go, we're not going to do that one. But do it, because you will get better tool performance out of this, and you will get results, and you will see what you need to find in there. And I guarantee you, as soon as you start decrypting, you're going to find bad stuff in those packets.